What's up, everybody? It's me, Stevie, Super Small Chibi with Super Small Grey Wolf, and today I'm going to be talking about the unfortunate hate for Silent Hill F and Resident Evil 9 Requiem. Now, before I get into this, let me say a few things. Number one, I love these games, and so far, Resident Evil 9 Requiem is my favorite game of this year, that I played, and, there's still many more games to come, but so far, that's what I've been going back to it, Trophy Hunt, and, similar to what I did with Silent Hill F, both games are wonderful and peak, modern. Because when I think about both franchises, Silent Hill has been absent. You know what I mean? They tried to do a little bit with them, and I remember the PS3. Oh man, that gen, it wasn't that wonderful with Silent Hill, with that, what was it, the duo trilogy. There was like a special collection edition of Silent Hill games that was low quality and released on the PS3. So, it's been issues, you know what I mean? So, we got the Silent Hill 2 remake, which is interesting. Yeah. And yeah, pretty much that's it. But no new games before this. So Silent Hill F coming out, brand new game. It hit the spot. Resident Evil wise, they've been doing great. The recent Resident Evil games were, beloved. Many people, I remember hearing people praise those games. Me personally, it didn't really hit that much. I watched some gameplay and cool. But Resident Evil 9 Requiem, I saw that and then 100% I went for it. You know what I mean? I was like that. And I'm happy I did. It was wonderful and cool. Also, I would say, like, when it comes down to both games, another thing, I'd say, I'm excited. I hold these up high, next to other games. Because for me, when it comes down to Silent Hill, my favorite one is still 3. The music, like You're Not Here and all that stuff. I enjoy all that stuff. You know what I mean? When I like a soundtrack, I learn it in my instruments and stuff. And Resident Evil, same thing, they have Resident Evil Code Veronica has a song, Lineage Graph, I forget what it's called, but some religion, something like that. And, that's just a wonderful song too. So, yeah, as you can see, I love the games, I love the music and all, So when it comes down to, hearing stuff relating negativities towards both games, unless it makes sense, which, if someone plays the game, not every game is, perfect or meant for everyone. That's cool, you know what I mean? Hey, there's some Silent Hill games that I want to avoid. I'm like, okay, I'm good. I am good. Nope. And there's the same thing with Resident Evil. I'm like, okay, I think I'm good. You know what I mean? And other franchises as well. Final Fantasy comes to mind. And I love Final Fantasy as well. I hold Silent Hill, Resident Evil, Final Fantasy as, top, like perfect games. Franchises, you know what I mean? So many games within those franchises and all. So when it comes down to these two, I was like, oh wow, we're living in modern times where we got a amazing Resident Evil game and Silent Hill game. And I noticed this, whenever these two, say, like back then when Silent Hill F was, brand new and all, fresh. I remember there was people trying to put more of real life situations and political controversial stuff and try to relate that to this game. And I also kind of heard the same recently for Resident Evil 9 Requiem. Me loving both franchises and these two, being, we know the classic PS1 debate. Resident Evil versus Silent Hill, you know what I mean? If you know, you know. So this is a perfect time to talk about both of these amazing games and the situations surrounding them. So yeah. Now, the first topic I want to talk about relating to both of them is the topic of, well, more like the Resident Evil Requiem, let me start with that one, is that they say Grace, who is in the left, if you did not know, she has a ugly or Capcom purposely made her unpleasant look. You know what I mean? Me personally, I think she's top tier waifu, when it comes around to Resident Evil and all that. But hey, some people will claim that she is a horrific look and they do it in purpose. Basically, there's a theory of theirs that says in modern times, they purposely want to make uglified character designs to, for some type of purpose, to relate to certain groups and other stuff within certain societies in some countries. So that's all I'm going to get into. I don't want to get too deep into that for obvious reasons. But yeah, now in my opinion, Grace looks like a wonderful character. Now, I have seen certain character types and models within some games which I avoid that is just weird as shit. You know what I mean? So, hey, You know, like I say, you do you, you do, I do me and all that stuff. You know what I mean? But I would say, there's specific types of games where I enjoy and love, and it's really cool, Like, for example, when I think of like cool character designs, right? I think like on modern times, you know what I mean? I remember playing Splatoon 2 for the first time on the Nintendo Switch because I didn't have a Wii U. I was like, yo, these are really cool designs, you know what I mean? Anime type look and all that shooting game. And then, let's compare that to like foam stalls, on the PS5. I was like, oh, this is like similar to Splatoon. It has its own unique stuff, you know what I mean? You are surfing around. They have unique different type of designs as well. It's really cool. So I'm not saying like, me personally, there's many amazing modern designs, you know what I mean? Spanning different games and genres. For example, the Metal Gear game, like they did a remake of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater last year. And I think they did a wonderful job. I saw how the original looks. I see how the modern, take looks. And it's wonderful. It's really cool. Now, for me personally, I'm a fan of FPS games. I'm more of the classic stuff because a lot of the modern FPS games, I would agree with that specific point. Like, where there's like, there's like a ew type of character designs and all that. You know what I mean? Within specific types of games, and modern FPS games tend to be like that. On PlayStation and PC and stuff. So I'm like, you're not the best designed, and some of them are just straight up stupid and weird. So in somewhat, I understand what they're saying, and this and that. But that's not every specific game out there, and that's not Resident Evil or Silent Hill F. Well, I only hear this being said about Resident Evil, not Requiem. You know what I mean these days. But I think the character designs, like, Grace, Leon, and other wonderful villains within this, and other characters, side characters, and all that, they look wonderful and cool. I think, Now I'm going to be talking about Silent Hill F's situation. So Silent Hill is wonderful, Why do you enjoy, like, there's different protagonists, of course, Silent Hill F, we got Hanako, Silent Hill 3, we have Hedda, and then, of course, there's, like, what was it, Harry, and then another one, they have Mason, and other ones as well. It's really cool and wonderful characters. No, I get the names confused. James Sunderland, and then, they got Mason, he's the other one. So, yeah. I think when it comes down to Silent Hill wise, they're wonderful and cool. I enjoyed them. And I feel like when it comes down to it, I look at the other protagonists. This is one reason why I bring it up, whether it's Harry, Mason, or James, or Hedda. I compare the classics, to like Hinako, and there's nothing wrong, character design wise either. And I think she's a wonderful entry to all that, she fits the cool designs, and then the villains, of course, you already know the villains and the enemies within these games, the design wise, really cool and wonderful as well. So I know the hate, if there is any hate going into their designs, which I didn't hear about that, the hate mostly comes from a political view of Hinako is the type. So long story short, we must understand, if you as Neo fan, anything about Silent Hill F, let me explain. So in Silent Hill F, it's taking place in back then, correct me if I'm wrong, like 1970s or 1940s Japan. So long story short, it's in a specific time period back then in Japan where it's more traditional than it is in current day. So that's important to understand because Hinako over here, who's in the right side, is a how I would describe her as more like a excited, she's more like a outgoing chick. She likes to do stuff with her best friend and chill and hang out. You know what I mean? Her and Shu is her male best friend, by the way. So Hinako being the tomboy type, she's going out, she's doing her thing, and that being the game taking place in a traditional time period, it's like a no. So right then and there, people have a situation with it due to that, which I don't think, me personally, I think that's cool. You know what I mean? There's many wonderful tomboys within fiction. Videl, Dragon Ball, Sakura Kazagano, we got Street Fighter, Asuka Kazama, Tekken, Yoro Sakazaki, the King of Fighters, or SNK in general. Berserk has Casca, Rico Matoi, etc. You know what I mean? So, people trying to put, spin that in a negative way, what Hinako's, specific character type is weird. You know what I mean? Because it's like, dude, that's nothing new. You know what I mean? Why is that a situation? You know what I mean? If you watch anime, you see many of those types. You know what I mean? So I don't know. That was just a weird one for me. You know what I mean? To hear that. Also, if we compare horror, Hinako, to how Heather was in the early 2000s in Silent Hill 3, it's nothing like, oh man, this is brand new. No, Heather was, she was chilling too. You know what I mean? She didn't give a fuck what the hell was going on. You know what I mean? She was chilling. So, in my opinion, hearing these specific opinions, it doesn't add up. They're trying to make a negative in a modern gaming situation, which I totally disagree with. Now, the next thing I would like to talk about is that in Grace's side, right? A lot of people are trying to go after her for, she within the game of Resident Evil 9 Requiem. Grace is she stutters, she's a little scared and afraid at times, and all of that stuff. You know what I mean? And a lot of people are going after her because she's, I guess, the new girl. But a lot of people are forgetting that she's not like the first female protagonist within Resident Evil to act in this specific way. There has been moments within the past and past characters that have been a little, scared, frightened, or jumpy and this and that. You know what I mean? So that's just a side thing. It's not like a main crazy thing. But I hear people trying to link that more and more on why it's like it feels weird or it's a weird take on her. And in my opinion, that's just a character type. And I think that's just over exaggerating. Because Grace is a wonderful character. I enjoy it. I think she's a wonderful welcome. She fits right there next to, not saying she's better than, but right next to like other classics like Jill Valentine, Claire, Rebecca Chambers, etc. You know what I mean? So yeah, in my opinion, she might not be better than them, but she fits there, as one of my favorites. Now, the final thing I wanted to bring up before ending this video is called, it's a term that I keep on hearing here and there. It's called gatekeeping. And I have a split opinions on that one. So if you did not know, from what I could understand and from what I'm hearing in these videos that keep on popping up my feed for some reason, I don't know why YouTube started recommending me it in the first place, but then I started seeing it more and more once I got into the YouTube shorts of Resident Evil 9 Requiem. So this word is new to me. It's called gatekeeping, So gatekeeping is basically, from what I could tell, is that, there's a specific Resident Evil 9 Requiem. Let's use that for example. A lot of people see the facade and fake fans of certain people trying to claim that they are fans, but they're doing specific things to promote a specific type of website or courses slash other shit business wise. You know what I mean? And they're trying to basically, manipulate, try to put up a facade and shit like that. From what I could see and what I was told about it, that's the best I could come up with. I don't know, Now, me personally, if you're going to prevent newcomers from coming into your group of fan base, you better have a good reason. Like, for example, let me give you an example, right? If someone's just going to be weirdos and be like, okay, let's just know the basic shit and then let's, be weird with it. My Hero Academia, I watched somewhat of that, those shorts and animes, I knew people who watched that, Now, I'm not saying the fan base is bad, but I've seen some weird stuff that fans who are friends of mine, anime fans, send me and they're like, yo, look at this weird shit that's going on in the fan base. And then that's how I knew from, so I understand, in a way why you would be weirded out. Some people making the fans look bad. And also, I've seen other ways where certain types of people come into a fan base and they basically aren't fans of it, but they try to use it to popularize their own selves. You know what I mean? And it's just weird. It comes off weird. Now, I feel like if someone's genuinely trying to get into a fan base or community, I think they should be welcomed with open arms. You know what I mean? And I don't think it's fair to just, assume that they're just there to get there's a big fan, like being weird. You know what I mean? So I feel like, hey, man, if they're interested in learning about Resident Evil, Silent Hill, why this gatekeep mindset? You know what I mean? I don't agree with that in that way. You know what I mean? If someone really, truly cares, educate them. Be like, hey, yo, this is Silent Hill 3, let me teach you about it, like Hedda and stuff, this is amazing. They has an amazing song called, and there's many amazing songs, I remember the PS2 copy of Silent Hill 3 that I have has like the playlist. It's really cool and chill. You know, it has two discs, the game itself and like the playlist. And then like, you know, teach them about that because it's really cool, you know. So we could have like a shared passion about like Silent Hill 3 or Silent Hill F, etc. And same with Resident Evil, you know what I mean? So yeah. So pretty much that's all I have to say about all of that. So with all that being that, let me know what you think about all these situations. With that being that, I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, bye.